Welcome to this restorative yoga session. I encourage you to come down and lay onto your back. So perhaps with your bolster behind your knees. So take the bolster if you have one, or your cushions or pillows, and just allow the knees to be supported here and lay yourself down. I wouldn't recommend necessarily having anything underneath your head, like a pillow or a cushion, unless if it was really thin. But if you can just lay the head down onto the mat, that will be perfect. So you're just going to come on down to this supine position, and perhaps have your arms open out to the side with the palms upturned. So just allowing yourself to get as much contact with the earth, with the floor that you can. So back of the neck nice and long, no tension through the neck and the shoulders. Palms facing upwards, so it's the backs of the hands resting, and you'll notice that your fingers just curl. Maybe wriggle the legs around a little bit, hips, just to ensure that there's support through the pelvis. And you can just feel the bolster or the support underneath the knees, but then the heels resting onto the earth, the heels and the feet. And just as it's available to you here, close the eyes down. If you feel like you would like a little bit of extra darkness, then by all means utilize your scarf or eye pillow and just draw that over the eyes. And just giving yourself a moment here to ground, to rest, to come into that stillness. So stay resting onto your back here, and just allow the feeling of support of the ground. Allow yourself to feel supported and to feel like there's a connection ultimately to the earth. And it's onto your yoga mat or the carpet, whatever floor surface that you're working with. So just allowing yourself to lay on your back and be in stillness. Really give yourself permission to be in stillness here. And as you're resting onto your back with your eyes closed, it's just an opportunity for you to scan your body. So taking this body scan, working from the feet, feeling into the connection of the heels, maybe even the sides of the feet. Feeling the connection of the legs. Perhaps if you're not using a bolster, you're feeling the connection of the whole legs underneath, connected to the mat. Or perhaps there's that real cushioned support underneath the knees via the bolster. And that support continues, and you feel the buttocks supported by the earth. The hips settle. And then feel into the parts of the back that are in contact with the floor. In and around the shoulder blades and upper back. And then there's the connection of the back of the head And the arms resting heavily upon the earth, all of the way to the backs of the hands. So just feeling into those parts of you that are touching the floor, touching the earth, feeling into the heaviness of it, the grounding as you settle into the stillness here. And please trust yourself throughout the practice this afternoon that if you need to make any adjustments or variations for the class for yourself, then by all means utilize your own wisdom, your own inner teacher, as always. And there will be pockets of silence, these opportunities for you to dive into your own inner world, to that landscape of the mind that runs beneath thought, and yet often is thought. Give yourself those silent opportunities to be, and trust that I'm still here even though you have your eyes closed. The sweetness of the breath, the endless flow in and out of the body. The inhale ideally via the nostrils, slow and long and deep. And the exhale back out via the nostrils or a gently opened mouth. A full deep inhalation. And a complete breath out, emptying. And take your time to feel into the breath, to be aware of the breath as this function of the body. Yeah, it's a function that is unconscious most of the time, and yet a function that we can be very conscious of and even adjust and to some degree control. And here simply allowing yourself perhaps to invite in just a little more depth of breath. And continuing with this fullness of breath as we come into a little bit of movement within the transitions between poses here today. And I will give you a visual between the poses, but there will be time and space. So please don't feel like you need to look super quick to be able to be guided through the transitions. And take your time here. The first part of the sequence will be remaining supine and on your back. So you should be pretty right to follow along verbally. Simply allowing just a little bit of movement through your fingers and toes here. So wiggling fingers and toes. And just taking your time to move out of that opening stillness that perhaps just gives us an opportunity to transition into the practice this afternoon. then it will be really nice here just to draw the legs up one at a time. Just bend the knee and place the foot either onto the floor or onto your bolster or cushions. So one leg followed by the other leg, and then go ahead and draw the knees both into the chest and just wrap the left hand around the left knee, the right hand around the right knee, and start turning circles with the legs. And as always, whatever feels right for you, so circles with both of the knees staying together or circling the knees in opposite directions, just allowing some movement of the legs and the legs into the hip joints. Yeah, so it's getting maybe this little rock through the hips and lower back, and slow moving and change direction if you've simply been going in one direction, or switch it out here and there. Just get a feeling for what needs to move, perhaps what needs to unravel a little bit between the stillness. Squeeze the knees into the chest and then release the feet back down onto either the bolster or once again to the floor, so whatever feels good for you. And then just extend. Let's go with your left leg. But if you've got your right leg in the sky, it won't be the end of the world. But let's stretch the left leg up. And then just circle the ankle around a couple of times. I really love this circular movement of the ankle joint, this secondary movement. Circle it back in the other direction. And then allow yourself to bring your ankle over onto your thigh. So you create this figure four or a reversed figure four, and this might feel like it's enough of an opening for the hip. If you've got your foot a little bit lifted off the floor, try and make sure that some of the top flesh of the buttocks is still in contact with the earth, so that you've got a nice neutral spine, or pelvis rather, towards neutral, rather than the tail being tucked up. And just give yourself this opportunity to be still and to receive gentle stretching. If you are more flexible and more open through the hip joint, and you want to lift the foot up off the floor or off the bolster, then by all means take that left hand through between the legs, wrap the right hand around the outside of the right leg, and hold either around the front of the shin or just behind the back of the thigh. Try and feel that there's still a breadth across the shoulders and the front of the chest as you work here. And you might find that you'd like to move a little side to side through the hips and the legs. Maybe there's sort of a gentle squeeze in and release, or there's just a stillness. Trying your best to ensure that there isn't tension being created by coming into the pose. Can we still find an easefulness, as easeful as simply laying on your back was? Is the breath still simply steadily moving in and out? Go ahead and unravel the fingers. Place both feet back down onto the bolster or mat, and see if you can take them at least to hip width, maybe even a little bit wider. You can either cactus arms here, or take your arms out to a T shape from your shoulders, so that you can find this windscreen wiper movement. So this movement of the legs both drawing down towards the earth on one side, then coming back up through center and moving down to the other side. So your legs are emulating that movement of a set of windscreen wipers from side to side. And really slowly and steadily does it today. There's no rush. Can you give yourself permission to slow down? Give yourself permission to take this deep rest that's being offered. Go down to the side one last time. And then you can come on up, and you're going to extend the other leg towards the sky. So the right leg for most of us, and circle the ankle. You can either hold on to your leg or not. You can keep the knee a little bit bent or really stretch the leg up, but once again, try and keep the top flesh of the buttocks grounded, and then circle that foot back in the other direction. So once again, getting that secondary movement of the ankle joint, just freeing up and circling the joint. And then take the ankle or the outer ankle down onto the left thigh. And feel into the rotation of the femur, the thigh bone, inside the pelvis. Is there an openness there? Is there a movement that happens through the hips? Is it enough to have the foot resting on the bolster or the earth? Or would you like to feed the hands through and draw that left leg into the chest a little deeper? Once again, can there just be this openness through the chest, this breadth through the chest? Encouraging a comfortability and a length in through the back of the neck. So once again, there's a lack of tension or an easefulness. And just give yourself the opportunity to keep coming back to the breath. And then once again, releasing through this pose, and taking the feet again as wide as the hips, so that there's a freedom of movement for this windscreen wipers. You might feel a stretch down through the side waist, a little more here, and just a little less rotation through the lower spine. Slow and steady with the breath, side to side. And then as you bring the knees up through the center line, last moment here, drawing the knees back into the chest, maybe knees towards the armpits a little more. Feel perhaps that there's a little more range of movement through the hips, a little more freedom here. And then you can go ahead and roll onto your side and take your time to press yourself all of the way up towards a seated position. So let's come into our hands and knees and just move through a little cat's breath. So just allowing some fluid movement through the spine. So flexing through the spine as you draw the chin towards the chest, press down through the hands, and then extending through the spine as you allow the tailbone to move upwards towards the sky. Again, there's that breadth across the chest, and gaze looking forward, whether the eyes are opened or closed. And again, rounding the back. And peeling the chest open as the tailbone extends skyward. And just a couple more times. So I like to exhale with that rounding of the spine. And inhale with the arch. One more time. Exhale to round. And inhale to open through the chest. And then just sit your hips back onto your heels to set up for a child's pose. And some of you will know how to set up the props, so by all means take the variation that you know and love. You might like to take a yoga block in underneath if you have a yoga block. If you've got a bolster, I usually have the end about halfway along my thighs here. If you simply have a couple of pillows stacked, that might be enough. I just want you to check in that your neck is in a really comfortable position when you come down here. So belly is supported by the bolster and pillow. And then just drop your chin off to one side, and I usually bring my head off to the side a little bit and just check that there's still just a length through the back of the neck, so that there's no crease in the back of the neck. And if you need to change the height of the bolster to support that, then by all means, there's a few different ways that you can do this one. So you could simply have one pillow and your arms stacked in and underneath. It's about allowing yourself to come into a stillness. If the knees don't allow for that range of movement, then perhaps your bolster or your pillow is better underneath your knees, and you might just rather stack the hands so that the back of the neck remains long here. So once again, allowing yourself to find a variation that benefits you. So resting into child's pose, supporting the head as you need. And if the hips or knees are simply resisting this position, then just come back to your hands and knees and find some circles through the hips. Find back into your cat cow, your cat's breath. And we'll take a few moments together here, finding the heaviness once again to the earth. Even if you're in hands and knees, there's still a drawing to the earth. There's a rooting down. And if you've had your head turned to one side in your child's pose, allow yourself to gently lift through the chest and turn the head across to the other side. Taking yourself some time here to really feel into where is the body comfortable again. If there needs to be an adjustment, take the adjustment. If your body says that's long enough here, then draw yourself out. The practice of yoga is very much about listening. It's about going within, so tuning in. What do I need in this moment? Am I in a place of easefulness and comfort? Which is not to say that life is always comfortable. But on a physical realm here, am I in a place that is comfortable and safe? Or could I just tweak the pose a little to be in even greater comfort? And perhaps in that way we can apply that to our minds. Am I in a place of comfort and ease within my mind? How might I offer myself a greater comfort or greater ease with my thoughts? yourself to gently come on up and out of your child's pose. And not many restorative yoga sessions with me take place without a good mermaid twist. So your bolster comes along your yoga mat, or again your stacked pillows, and I'll give you a variation if you don't have a bolster or cushions here as well. If you do, your legs are both pointing away, your feet are both pointing away, and you've got your hip quite close to the bolster here, and you're just going to lay your belly down onto the bolster. So it's a little rotation through the spine, and you can move your bolster around to make sure you're nice and comfortable. And then once again, the head rests. Check in that your chin's drawn in towards your collarbones, that your elbows are comfortably resting on the floor so that your shoulders aren't scrunched up towards your ears. See if you can have the backs of the hands on the floor and the palms turned upwards. You may need to rearrange through the chest just to ensure that you're comfortable as you rest down onto the bolster, but you do want to try and get the center of the sternum, that place between where the rib cage meets at the base there and down towards the navel, in contact with the bolster as best as you can. If you don't have support, you're simply going to take your opposite hand over to your knee and allow yourself to come into a seated twist. And as it's available to you, have your eyes closed down here. And once again, maybe your toes just need to move slightly to the right or the left to gain just that extra little bit of comfort. And same too with the thoughts. You give yourself permission just to be more gentle with yourself. Even just offering up gratitude for this moment, gratitude for the time and space to take a practice like this, gratitude for practices like this to be here for us to access. Allow that full deep breath out. Followed by a beautiful full inhalation. And just take a few more breaths in this stillness with yourself. And as the time comes to change position, to change sides, just really give yourself the time and the space that you need here, and remind yourself that the slower that you can take the transitions, the more likely your body is going to be able to drop deeper and deeper into the practice. So just begin by finding into the breath, deepening into the breath. Take your time to press your hands down to the floor to lift yourself up. And you can either stay facing to your bolster and come through hands and knees to change sides. I like to turn away from the bolster and pick my hips up and settle into mermaid on the other side. So again, just settling the bolster right near the hip, the feet are facing away, and you can lay your chest down onto the bolster. The option is to take that seated twist. And the seated twist takes the opposite hand to the knee and the other hand around. Otherwise, you're just taking these few moments to settle in to the stillness. So don't feel like the very first place that you put yourself needs to be perfect or correct. So rearrange your feet if you need to. Sit yourself back up and reposition your buttocks and your hip if you need to. Check that your chest is rested down onto that bolster, that the back of the neck is long, that the elbows are in a good position, that the arms aren't pushing the shoulders up to the ears. And that you're able to rest in to the stillness. And that you're able to rest in the most comfort that you can muster in this moment. And yes, being still can be challenging because often the mind becomes more prevalent. We see the thoughts. We allow them to be seen. And truly being mindful, meditating, taking a slow practice like this takes so much courage. And this takes a courage to be still, to rest, to allow the thoughts to be arising or more noticeable. And again, try and just allow yourself to come into a place of gratitude. Gratitude for this time out. Gratitude for this practice. Gratitude for this body. And take a few more moments of stillness here before we move again. And the breath simply moving in via the nostrils and back out via the nostrils or that gently opened mouth. Inhale. Exhale. a time to prepare. A time to prepare for movement. Prepare mentally. And slowly begin your movement up to a seated position. And then you can allow yourself to stretch your legs out in front. If you need to sit up on your cushion or your bolster, you're welcome to. Try and sit tall out of the spine. You can utilize your hands on the floor, so pressing the palms of the hands down by the hips, or allowing your hands to reach back a little bit further and tent your fingers to encourage a sitting tall through the pelvis. So finding, rather than sitting here, we'd like to try and find this length through the spine by tilting the pelvis. And if that means you have to bend your knees a little bit, then that's perfectly fine. Bend the knees a little bit. If they feel like they can lengthen out once you're there and maintain this lift through the center, that's perfect. Sitting tall. And you're going to find a forward fold, either here with the both legs long, if you know that that's available to you. Can be a strong stretch, especially if the hamstrings are tight. So if you'd like to take a forward fold with the legs long, then you're most welcome to. Sometimes really giving yourself extra support by folding your bolster over or hugging your cushions up can help here. Otherwise, allowing yourself to take the feet a little bit wider. So take your feet wide so you create more like a V here. And again, you could just come into a forward fold, or you could move your hands over to one leg and you're just going to take a little fold here so that you're just stretching one leg at a time. It will be less intense. And with the rotation of the hip, slightly different stretch as well, but you should be feeling the stretch in towards the back of the leg. We're not going to hold the forward fold for too long. And if you're stretching over both legs, simply stay where you are. If you're stretching over the single leg, then rise yourself up now and take yourself over to the other side. And again, really get that lift through the torso, and then folding over so that you're feeling a stretch through the back of the leg, primarily through the back of the upper leg. And again, your knees can be off lock here. You can be supporting yourself with your bolster as you know how. Otherwise, this single leg stretch, just allowing the body to be not forcing into the stretch, so not to the point where you're grinding your teeth and you're thinking, I don't like stretching. Just keep yourself lifted out of the stretch enough that you're feeling a little sensation, but your body's still able to stay in this relaxed place. Yeah, this is the idea. And then we can all together draw upwards. You can scoop your hands behind your knees. Draw your knees in towards your chest. If it's available to you, give your legs a big hug. If it's available, take your feet off the floor and find a balance here for a moment. And the variation would simply be hold the knees and just close the eyes down. And then we're going to come into Shavasana together. So I'm going to take you through a short visualization with Shavasana. So returning to the place that you began, if that was comfortable for you, with the bolster underneath the knees. If you are feeling a little cool or feel like you might get cool in stillness, then this would be a great opportunity to draw your blanket over you. Have your eye pillow or scarf handy. You can absolutely practice without a covering over your eyes. I love having a cover over my eyes. I feel like it just allows me to go a little deeper into my practice. There's some external support. So bring yourself into your supine position for Shavasana. You don't need to have a bolster. You can have your knees bent up with the soles of the feet on the floor, or you can just extend your legs along the mat. Take any variation that you know and love for rest here. And at any time you can bring the knees up, take the feet a little wider apart, rest the knees together, or allow your knees to open, the soles of the feet connect. Somewhere where your lower back is comfortable, where your body is supported, and somewhere that you can really dive into the stillness. You could take this visualization as a seated meditation as well, if you'd prefer. You can take this seated on your bolster or on a chair. Remind yourself to be aware of the parts of the body in contact with the earth and allow a surrender. Notice the breath as it moves in and out of the body. And just take in any sounds within your environment. And allow yourself to notice the quality of thoughts within your own mind. Whether there's a relative stillness or whether there's still turmoil, you take this practice of visualizing together greater health for all humanity. Greater health for the earth. By mindfully growing together a garden. Allow yourself to be outside in nature. Find a patch of earth that is to become a beautiful garden. This may be a patch of earth that you're familiar with, that you have perhaps already toiled and prepared. Or perhaps this is a patch of dirt or grass that you're willing to put in the labor to discover the rich soil beneath, the healthy earth. Prepare the earth. See the rich soil. Smell the earthiness. Feel the dampness of the earth. As you get your hands into the soil, visualize yourself planting seeds or seedlings. Can you offer those seeds and seedlings some words or thoughts of encouragement? Plant them with your love. Plant them with your whole heart. Continue planting the seeds or seedlings into your garden. And when you feel satisfied that you have planted enough for today, allow yourself to stand up and step back from your little patch, your garden. Brush the soil from your hands and allow yourself a moment to look over the garden that you have created. And know that everywhere across the globe, people are creating gardens. And see within your heart what you have planted is contributing to the health of the planet, the health of humanity, the health of yourself. And as you rest here, there's simply the breath moving in and out of the body. breath, your life force, the inhale and exhale, continuous. And feel into the heaviness of your body resting upon the earth. And take a moment to feel into your surroundings, to take in the sounds of your environment. And begin to deepen into the breath and find a little movement, rubbing your thumbs over your fingertips, wiggling the toes. And preparing yourself for movement. You might like to stretch your arms overhead, or like we did at the very start of the session, draw your knees into your chest. And take a moment to roll onto your side, and perhaps resting your head upon your bottom arm like a pillow. And slowly bring yourself to an upright, seated position. And of course, if you feel to remain longer in Shavasana, then by all means, please do. And rest your hands over the center of your chest. Namaste.